Last night, I sat through a Raging Golden Eagle stream where he tried talking about Pokemon Go, and he tried making out Nintendo to be the bad guy. Like, oh, Nintendo, they're the most evil of all corporations. Oh, all of them are like this. Oh, like I bet they were behind this. Like this fucking like incel MGTOW pedophile lolicon enjoying like fuck was sitting there like trying to do this, and he even tried like stating the obvious. He tried damage controlling the obvious statement. Well, I know Nintendo doesn't fully own Pokemon, but they might as well do. Like, completely unaware of the fact that the Pokemon Company exists so they can micromanage the brand, so Nintendo doesn't have to, right? Like the Pokemon Go update probably had nothing to do with Nintendo at all. Right. And if anything, like if it really is like the evil ESG system, like making all these changes, then the fact is Nintendo wouldn't have had any control over the situation anyway. Like the reality is, and I really do mean this, I am sick to death of people trying to write off Nintendo products because of alleged censorship or changes that they can't prove or decisions the behind the scenes that they don't understand, because this keeps coming up like every single major release. Like, oh, they censored Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Like, no, they didn't. Like, yes, they did. It's the same in our regions. Oh, they censored it in development. That's not how that works. Like, oh, but it's not as sexy as Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Yeah, because it's a completely different tone. Like, no, but look at this. They didn't do this before Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Like, you complained about Xenoblade Chronicles X. Like removing the boob slider and like uh changing some of Lin's outfits, like Lynn's outfits, like Lynn's outfits. Like you complained about that. Like, did you just forget? Like, I think you did, because you have no consistency, you have no principles, you have no conviction, right? You will complain about Nintendo no matter what happens. I've been seeing you do it for over a decade. Why should I ever take you seriously? After you complained about Fire Emblem Awakening, after you complained about Kid Icarus Uprising, Skyward Sword, The Wonderful 101, Star Fox Zero, Tokyo Mirage Sessions, Xenoblade Chronicles X, the release of the original Xenoblade Chronicles, like the whole Operation Rainfall thing in general, the way you treated the Wii, the DS, like why would I ever take your opinion seriously after you have consistently over the past 20 years dismissed all of this great stuff that Nintendo put out? What a lot of people did when Resident Evil 4 was announced as a GameCube exclusive? Like, why isn't it on PS2? Why isn't it on the kitty purple lunchbox? Wah, wah, wah. Same thing. No matter what Nintendo does, you're going to have these plebs come out and speak out against them. I just saw, Sean Malmstrom, like he returned to Tears of the Kingdom after like almost a full year of not playing it. And what does he do? Oh, it's a slog. It's boring. Like as if he hasn't been saying that about every Zelda game since like Zelda 2. Like, am I really supposed to take someone like that seriously? Am I really supposed to believe you when you try to say that, like, Super Mario Bros. 3 was the last good Mario game? That 3D ruined Mario and Zelda? That Super Metroid was, like, completely missed the point of the original somehow? Like, am I supposed to believe that? Am I supposed to believe the coping and seething you guys have when it comes to like Power World, and how it's first of all not plagiarized from Pokemon, and how it's totally gonna kill the IP, and how Power World totally isn't woke, and how like Pocket Pair is somehow gonna take over Japan and put Nintendo out of business? Like, am I really supposed to take you seriously? Really? This is the reality of the situation, right? This is the issue with a lot of anti-woke discourse, is that fundamentally a lot of this stuff has nothing to do with anti-woke discourse. Like, it has nothing to do with woke culture or like the declining quality of games, because if you were talking about the actual quality of these products, you wouldn't be talking about Nintendo at all, because they have been consistently great. No, the issue is that people just want to complain about Nintendo just because it's Nintendo. I saw Yellow Flash try to put out his video on the subject, like, oh, look at what Nintendo did to Pokemon Go. Completely ignoring the existence of Niantic, completely ignoring the existence of the Pokemon Company, completely ignoring like all of those other factors in regards to this. Like, let's just blame Nintendo because that'll get us the clicks, that'll get us the attention, right? You saw the same thing when they changed the Princess Peach box art. You had these clowns at Clownfish TV, swimming around their anemones, like changing gender so they can fuck each other, right? You had those clowns in Clownfish TV try and tell you that, like, oh man, they ruined Princess Peach. Oh, they made her look smarmy. Look at like the Super Mario Bros. Movie, right? How many of these people came out and tried to label Peach as like a woke girl boss? That was going to ruin the movie and like upstage Mario. It was going to be like the Princess Peach movie. Like even now, Angry Joe tries to tell you that's what happened. Like, oh, Princess Peach totally could have beat Donkey Kong. Oh, she totally could have beaten Bowser by herself, even though that didn't happen, right? She totally could have done it. Like, Mario did nothing. Mario was worthless. Like, and that's observably not true in the actual film. If anything, like, I point to the Mario movie as like an example of like anti-woke in video game adaptation entertainment, because like what does it do? It makes Princess Peach an active, proactive character who's interesting and fun to watch, but it also doesn't undermine Mario. Like that is the issue with woke culture in general, is that it emasculates the male characters in order to like push the female ones, as the girl boss. And that simply didn't happen in the Mario movie. Both Mario and Peach have great moments in that film, and that's what makes them great to watch. They are great characters in that film, even if there are so many people like in denial about that fact. That is the reality of that situation. So you have that. But yeah, again, like you have the first Mario movie, and what happens? You have the usual suspects coming out in regards to like the Zelda movie. Oh, this time they're gonna make it woke. This time Zelda's gonna save Link. Like it's gonna be more about Zelda than Link. And there's nothing we've seen to indicate that. Like why would you think that at all? Like Miyamoto can't stop it, but we already saw them make a reasonable compromise with the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Like, what exactly are you so why are you so fixated on this idea that like Nintendo is going woke when in reality, at the very least, they have been going woke like far slower than the rest of the industry? Like this is my issue with this, right? This is my thing with all of these people. Like, where were you 10 years ago when I was pointing out that like the Wii U had none of the problems that the PS4 and the Xbox One had? Where were you when I was pointing out like, highly unique, creative, like fun, interesting titles like the Wonderful 101 or Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze? Where were you when like I talked about all this great features, all these unique technology, all of it completely unemulatable, right? Like where were you when I was like talking about like how great Nintendo was, right? Like the reality is you were off like jacking off the hentai and trying to convince yourself that PC gaming was superior and that like iPhones would put Nintendo out of business, right? Like you were delusionally trying to convince yourself that Bayonetta 2 would come to PS3, and like where are we now? Bayonetta 3 is totally coming to PC, guys. Baten Kaitos is coming to PC, guys, which hasn't happened and never will happen. But like the cope is real, like the reason why the industry has gone in the direction it's gone in is because you did not support the good developers. You did not show up. For a bunch of people who always love calling other people tourists and downplaying like their importance and significance to like gaming culture, like I do feel as if the woke audiences have come out more in support for Nintendo products. You know, they actually support the brand. They actually talk about the games. They actually buy the games. They don't sit there and try to like tell you that like, oh, this is gonna be the last console I buy ever. After this, I'm gonna pirate everything. Like, yeah, of course Nintendo doesn't respect you. You know, because no matter what happens, you aren't happy. No matter what they do, you find some new weird fringe thing to complain about. And we have been seeing this consistently for the past 30 years. You know, it's not even like a recent modern internet thing. Like this goes back to like the the foundation of like the Sega Genesis, right? You know, Sega does what Nintendo, right? Like same logic, just mindlessly parroting buzzwords you see from gaming media or gaming YouTubers, you know, trying to downplay all these great Nintendo games that come out, trying to fixate on things that really don't matter at all. You know, like how many people still pretend that like Scarlet and Violet were bad games, right? You know, like how how many people like tried writing off like Bayonetta 3? You know, like how many people like just cried and bitched and moaned about the Nintendo Switch's power when it's the dominant platform right now? Like how many people are still delusionally convinced that like the Switch 2 is going to come out like very very soon? You know, like how many people like are trying to convince themselves that like Nintendo is on the way out and that the PS5 and the Series X are gonna have this like major renaissance period. Like the reality is, Nintendo has won the console war, right? Like I really don't think a couple of angry like incels on YouTube are going to like really sway anything, honestly. Like when I see people try to like boycott the Pokemon brand because of androgynous like character designs, I just kind of like throw my head back and laugh because who cares? Like the reality is, you're not going to leave a dent on anything. You're not leaving much of an impact. You know, people are the most upset they've ever been with Pokemon ever, right? And yet that's still not leaving an impact on the brand. It's not going anywhere. It's going to continue to be successful. The games are still going to continue to be great, and people are going to continue whining and moaning about them forever because that is all you have ever done.